Donald Trump won a victory few predicted, everyone, defying not only the polls, but defying the entire political establishment. So how did these experts, so-called experts, get it all so wrong? Though I would like to point out, we here at the Intelligence Report, we have always said from the very beginning that a Brexit-like victory was possible. In fact, even before Brexit, we were talking about how Donald Trump was reaching out to people in these states that were struggling economically in a way that we have not seen, frankly, anyone do since Ronald Reagan. Joining me right now, Emily Ekins, the director of polling at the Cato Institute, former Senator Scott Brown, Democratic strategist John Rowley, and the author of the book GOP GPS, Evan Siegfried. Good to have all of you here. All right, Scott Brown, I'll start with you up there in New Hampshire, where it looks like Maggie Hassan is going to be, your former Democratic governor, is going to be the new senator. It was a tough race with Kelly Ayotte, but overall, your thoughts on how people just got this one so darn wrong. What did they miss?
Well, Trish, as you know, I've been on your show many times, and I've said it's his to lose. I've said that from the beginning. I felt it as recently as yesterday morning, arguing with my wife and family, and because the political pundits, with all respect, didn't get it right. And they didn't get it right because they're not listening to the people, in that they were scared to actually tell people how they actually felt, because they would be demonized and vilified. Their cars would be scratched. Their signs would be ripped up. So they just kind of kept it to themselves. And I can't tell you, as I've said this before, how many people came up and said, hey, don't tell anybody I'm voting for Donald Trump. And these are the most unlikely people who would vote for Donald Trump.
I got to tell you, I heard the same thing, Scott. I heard the same thing, and I talked to so many people all over the country, different walks of life, from the extraordinarily successful to the middle class to the not so successful to evangelicals. I mean, right across the board. And they were somewhat afraid to say it, but they'd say, look, I really like what he's saying. And we haven't heard people say stuff like this. The political elite, the corruption that is perceived to be in the system, it has corrupted both sides, Emily. And I think this is a giant wake-up call to every single one of those lawmakers in Washington. Is it not?
I think it is a wake-up call. But honestly, this election is about being a low turnout election. We have about 4 to 5 million fewer voters who showed up at the polls, and far more people voted for third-party candidates. And on top of that, Hillary Clinton underperformed in virtually every group except for women. This election was lost by Hillary Clinton.
So this was, well, you know, Scott Brown making the point that earlier to me that people just don't like her, that this is part of her problem, that as a candidate, she truly does struggle. Because, you know, Evan, I know you were no Donald Trump fan, but he related to people in a way that she couldn't even hope to. I mean, she just had sort of no clue what your average American is up against. I've said it was sort of like Marie Antoinette. Let them eat cake. You know, buy them a few freebie things along the way. They'll vote for me. But you need more than that. You need solutions. Yeah.
Donald Trump, unlike Hillary Clinton, understood that people were hurting and felt bad. He saw that now, after last night, the last 3 of the last 4 elections at the federal level were direct repudiations of Barack Obama and the Democratic agenda. Democrats just felt, let's keep going, running on the greatness of Obamacare while premiums are skyrocketing. And Donald Trump even went out and talked about urban areas where Democrats take for granted. And while I don't think it shifted the vote in terms of turnout it kept people from turning out. In New York City, you have 7-1 Democrat to Republicans, and Hillary Clinton had 4.5 votes.
I met a lot of minority, and again, this is just anecdotal. So I would hear these things anecdotally, and I'm scratching my head saying this doesn't make sense with what we're seeing on the polling data, because, you know, it feels as though, you know, the pollsters are living in some kind of New York City, LA bubble. But John Rowley, this is an important thing that Evan brought up, in that Donald Trump was willing to take on these urban communities, minorities, and the challenges they have faced economically, and also just in terms of the crime rates there, in a way that we haven't seen Republicans do. They've been afraid to go there. Did that work to suppress the minority vote, or was it simply that they just didn't like Clinton?
I think Hillary Clinton ended up being a pretty flawed nominee. And I think, you know, I mean, there's no doubt about it. You have to tip your hand to Donald Trump. He's a master communicator. We knew that before he ran, and he's proved that, and maybe even proved it to himself in the process of this campaign. And, you know, there's just, I mean, right now we're going to go through a season of reflection and depression among progressives. There's progressive Prozac that needs to be handed out right now, because I think there is just a.
But you know what? You guys kind of screwed up, because you had a candidate that, you know, look, I'm not a socialist, so I can't ever get on board with any of that, but he is someone that spoke to the masses, resonated with people. I'm talking about Bernie Sanders. You had a candidate that connected. You chose not to go with him. I've often said Joe Biden would have done a heck of a lot better. Why were the elites so willing to back Hillary Clinton when they should have known all along she would be a challenge?
Well, there were a few black swans that happened in the general election that I think were hard for anybody to anticipate, and I think they cut both ways. I mean, Hillary feigning was unlike anything we've seen in a presidential race. Donald Trump and the
I don't know about that. I think people would cut her some slack for that. You know,
well, two or three things
poor
though.
Woman had walking pneumonia. You know, maybe she should have just come out earlier and said, you know, I got walking pneumonia. I'm going to be in and out of this thing.
The two different FBI announcements, and then also the Trump tapes. I mean, these are all things I think. Hillary's campaign, or maybe just Hillary Clinton, I think they took too much comfort in the Trump tape almost ending the campaign at that point, because if you looked at a lot of numbers, it seemed like it might have.
They thought that would be the case. Senator Brown, they wanted Donald Trump to be the nominee. They figured he was the easiest guy to beat. Boy, they sure got that one wrong, too. You've backed Donald Trump from the beginning. What is it that you saw in him all along, initially, that clearly so many missed?
Well, the fact that he's not a quitter, and he was basically on an island battling against the Democrats, Republicans, never Trumpers, the media, and he did it by himself, and that showed great courage. I love it when people say, oh, Hillary Clinton was a flawed candidate. Give me a break. A two-term senator, former First Lady, former Secretary of State. She was probably the strongest candidate you could have actually gotten when it comes right down to it.
No, but Scott, come on. She was a flawed candidate. She was a flawed candidate because she didn't connect.
She went through the process like everybody else.
Nah, she didn't connect with the people. She didn't connect with the people.
Oh, yeah.
And by the way, her legacy, I mean, you think about her husband and NAFTA and, you know, the job losses, 700,000 of them that resulted from NAFTA. You think about her pushing another trade agreement, the TPP agreement, and, you know, this is not going to go over well in places that rely on American manufacturing.
Yes, but Trish, they knew that. The Democratic Party knew that, and they got rid of Bernie Sanders, as you referenced, and they put in Hillary Clinton. So you live by the sword, die by the sword. Here's the very interesting thing that your viewers need to know. Harry Reid changed the rules in the Senate to allow for 51 votes. So everything except the Supreme Court, the federal judges, the cabinet secretaries, the ambassadors, everybody's 51 votes. So when you talk about pushing forth an agenda to get this country moving again, President-elect Trump's going to have those tools to just do those very important things.
He's got the wind at his back. I mean, Evan, he's going in there, and he's got everything. I mean, and I also think that the Republican Party is coming around, including the Never-Trumpers, because effectively, he saved them. He saved the party, which really looked as though it could just be imploding. Yeah. They're all there, in part because of him.
Yes, we still have a lot of work to do outreach to millennials and urban voters. But as a Never-Trumper, Donald Trump's success as president is our success as a country, and I'm here to help if he needs it.
So you're on board?
Yes, he's our president.
And do you think other Never-Trumpers
it's my patriotic duty to do
will also be on board now? Amen. Yeah.
But he has ruined the GOP brand among large blocks of voters, particularly Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, millennials. And so while the Republican Party has a win this time, come 2020, 2024, they're going to pay the price.
Well, and this is part of well, not necessarily. I mean, if he actually improves the economy and people have a better lot in life and they feel as though America is a place of opportunity the way it should be, then I would think Senator Brown, you know, he's got some good things going for him going into the next round.
Yeah, Trish, you know, he hasn't even served one day, and people are saying, oh, you wait till the next time. Listen, give the guy a chance, okay? The House and Senate hopefully will work together in a bipartisan, bicameral manner to put our country's interests first as Americans first, and the Latinos, the Mexican Americans, the Muslim Americans, every American is going to help, hopefully, have an opportunity that they haven't had because of the big government on individuals and businesses, which are putting that wet blanket on growth and development. So there's a lot of things to do.
The other
There's
thing
a lot
you
of
got to
work
point
to
out
do,
is the
so
big
we'll see what
government
happens.
and the liberal left has encouraged this divide and encouraged this split, and now he has an opportunity to bring everyone together.